how profound of an effect this is going to have for content creators to be able to monetize their content and have access to their audiences. And so, the element of how AI will affect that isn't honestly something I've thought very deeply about, but the way that Web3 is going to change the game for content creators is incredible and will be extremely helpful to content creators like you who are concerned or have experienced, being demonetized, are concerned about censorship, have been deplatformed, that kind of thing, because you have a direct relationship with your audience and they can pay in a frictionless way that feels like it does right now, where there's a subscription, and yet micropayments are behind the scenes flowing to you and to other people that you might recommend their content and that kind of thing.
So I want you to flesh that out a bit, because this is in fact the conversation that our friendship started around, and I was very struck by the picture you painted of the world we were headed towards, and I'm a little surprised that it has not emerged.
I am disappointed that it has not emerged yet too. Exactly. Yeah.
But do you want to describe if you were, building the protocols into the proper stack, what world would we be living in, and how would it work for creators and influencers and,
yeah, absolutely. We've actually been working with on a project that Ian Crossland started, Tim Pool, Ian Crossland. We called it Speakeasy because, speech.
I think it has a new name since then. I don't remember.
Okay. But the way that it works, so, Tim Pool's content was like we were building it around that. So I'll just use that as an example, right? So he has different guests on his show on a regular basis who also create content. So let's say that he's putting up his content and he's attaching a license to it that says, it costs whatever amount for a single play. And that you and I have a browser extension that we've installed that will we pay a subscription to on a regular basis, like once a month, we pay $5. And then behind the scenes, that browser extension pays every time we click play to Tim Pool for his content. Well, he can also have a section where he's recommending other creators. And those creators in their terms could say, well, any platform that's distributing this for me and it results in a sale, they can get a cut. It could be a flat fee. It could be a percentage. It could be something else entirely. The terms of the contract are completely, able to be customized such that they could even, accommodate those like music,
really weird edge cases. Yeah.
Music contracts that are in existence now were written 100 years ago. And so they're really complex and crazy, but it could even accommodate that. So anyway, the point being, so let's say, there's a guest, you go on his podcast and he wants to recommend your content and you have your content published in the same way so that it says, your content is, let's just use some easy numbers. It's a penny per play.
Or $1 to download. So if I want to watch it 100 times, I pay $1 and I've just got it. But if someone's just watching it once, they pay a penny.
Sure. But if they're viewing it through Tim's website because he's recommended it on his website, or he puts it in a social channel and he's recommended it that way, that a portion of that sale will go to Tim and a portion of it will go to you. And let's say, you have a producer even that you are also sharing those revenues with, that would automatically get sent to them as well.
And so it wouldn't happen after the fact, like with music
royalties.
Distribution with royalties and stuff like that. It would happen when the transaction happens. It's one of the reasons that smart contracts are great, because you build smart contracts on top of a payment platform, and it means I pay that 1 penny, and it looks at the smart contract. The smart contract says, okay, I'm supposed to look at this particular license, and the license says 30% to this party, 30% to the person that recommended it, and the rest to this, and it splits it right away, and everyone just gets the deposit right into their wallet right away before the person is even done watching the content.
And it also, again, has all of the same properties we've been talking about this whole time, like transparency, so that it can be audited really easily. You and I don't have to be worried about, somebody, a third party handling that split for us, or, it's, as somebody who distributes on YouTube, it's very opaque the mechanism, like how you're paid, how much you're paid, why you're paid. All of that is extremely opaque.
Why you're suddenly demonetized.
Why you aren't paid.
Right.
And
have to find a new job.
They're obviously making money from the views that they're getting because of your content, but they've decided you are not allowed to.
But then let's take this a step further, because a lot of creators are like, okay, that sounds cool, but the friction here is that I put out my content for free and I rely on ads. So what happens then? And then also the kind of difficulty in that is, let's say you do put your content on a platform like YouTube where you don't control the ads that are being shown on your content. So, you're having this like very deep conversation about the origin of life and, evolution and all of that kind of stuff. And you have an ad play that's like about, how that evolution isn't real and, whatever. It's like, there's like that, right, that friction that things are incompatible. You can't, you're somebody who's like talking about, I don't know, like intuitive eating, and then you have like a weight loss like ad play on your, on your content, and that kind of contrast is a bad fit for your audience. Well, the layer that this also opens up is for sort of creators to opt into the kind of advertising aggregators that would make sense for them. But this infrastructure still all has to be built. There are definitely...
The pieces are there. The top layer hasn't been assembled
yet. The tools are there. Yeah, there are definitely protocols working on ad aggregator type services that would be token-based, it would be blockchain-based in some sort of way. But it's not built out to the point where you could use it as a viable alternative to using something like YouTube. And so that's definitely disappointing that it's taken so long, but it's definitely still something that I think is potentially going to happen. The other aspect of it that you and I have talked a lot about is the game theory dynamics of how that gets going. Because in order for me to want to pay into a subscription, $5 a month, I need access to the content that I want, right? And if there aren't enough of the creators that are using that same system, then I can't get that access to the content that I want. And so that chicken and egg problem is something that hasn't been figured out yet.
Yeah, you have to jump into a network somewhere that sees the potential in this. But I mean, the potential is absolutely huge.
Yes.
Much bigger than the current market.
And the potential, this is why I got excited about it in the first place, because I have a background in the arts and I saw the crunch that creators were facing in the digital distribution mechanism, and how I like creating sort of weird, edgy art. And it made me super nervous to be, essentially you're like sharecropping on these platforms. Like, you don't own the land, you don't own your audience, you don't own anything about it, and you can be just erased at any moment, and have invested years of work. It's so tragic. And invested years of work to be making like barely a subsistence living. Like the amount of money that they're sharing with the creators is so out of balance with the amount of money that they're making. We did like a basic calculation when we did an experiment with Emotion Heap like almost 10 years ago. And so the average, she's a musician, so the average user listens to about 500 songs per month on Spotify. And if they were paying a penny per play for those songs, it was
2 cents per play becomes the equivalent to the Spotify $10 a month. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what it is then. A penny per play.
Half, yeah.
The audience pays 50%. The audience pays $5 instead of 10, and the creator would make 7 to 8 times what they're currently making right now. And so
both sides would be benefited by this, obviously.
The economics for the creators is like, it makes it so that you can have like a real sustainable living as a creator. You don't have to be a rock star or starve. And frankly, even rock stars now have to tour to make money, because it's the only way left for them to be making money, because the way that digital distribution has changed the dynamics and the economics of it has harmed artists so much at this point.
Yeah, it's frozen them out. Am I correct that it would also be possible with this architecture to do something like, let's say you generate a photo manipulation program, something that does what Photoshop does or thereabouts, and you could use you know, micropayments. Instead of selling somebody a subscription to it, you could pay by the hour, for example.
Yes.
For
Or by the use, like newspapers. Like, I hate the paywall, the subscription wall, where it says like,
right.
oh, you've read the first few lines of this, you don't get to read the rest unless you sign up for a monthly subscription for $10 or $15 a month. No, I would rather pay 1 penny for that one use. Same exact thing.
Yeah.
Yes, you totally could.
It can be fractions of pennies because it's cryptocurrency.
Oh yeah, it goes down to 10 decimals. Yeah. And
it also is taking out the payment processor costs that you incur in the current system. That payment processor cost is so high that you end up having to have a minimum payment amount, which then you're like, well, I'm not going to pay $1 to watch this video, or $1, you know, anyway. It just solves a lot of those problems. Micropayments are something that was theorized about at the very beginning of the web. There was even like, necessary. You know, there's 404 is the error code for you can't find something. 402, I think, was the code for a micropayment, you know, and it's just still empty. It just never made it. There were attempts at micropayments in like kind of the early aughts. There were several big attempts at it. There were people that thought that it was imminent. But the problem that all of those offerings at that time faced was that there was some sort of centralized entity that had to administer it. There was some point in the chain where it wasn't fully transparent. And so it involved trust. And that is the big, you know, kind of innovation that Bitcoin brought to the table, which just changes everything.
So a couple things. One, it'd be cool, and I don't see any obstacle to it. You could also, if you put together a Photoshop-like program, you could say use is free, but I get 20% of any profit made on anything you do with this.
You create with it. Yep.
And so lots of people would use it, never make a profit, and they would get the use for free, but it would be lucrative from the point of view of the people who had invested in building the program itself.
Yep.
But it also strikes me that this might be the use case that gets the difficulty of crypto low enough to get people used to both using crypto and collecting it. Right? Because if the idea was, let's say Twitter included a micropayment mechanism, you can make funny videos and you can put them on your Twitter and people can tip you, or you can charge them 5 cents if they want to look at it based on your description or whatever. And that, in order to make it tractable from Twitter's perspective, you load $20 in at a minimum, and then you spend it over whatever period of time it takes to spend it. And then, creators have to have some minimum amount before they can extract it. But anyway, I guess the question is, would Twitter do it in dollars, or would Twitter require you to use crypto? But if Twitter required you to use crypto, then getting in on that economy would be a good incentive for a lot of people. And it's the minimum complexity. How do I get some crypto? Then I spend it effortlessly with a click. And if I make some crypto, how do I get to something I can
get
spend,
it back out?
Right?
And that takes us kind of full circle back to the regulation conversation, because the reason that platforms can't sell tokens directly to users right now is because of ambiguity around things like money service business laws and blue sky laws, where because if Twitter were to sell you some tokens and then those tokens went up in value because the price of that crypto is changing over time, they could then be liable to have to do some reporting on you, basically, and that you would have to be doing reporting as well. And that just makes and
they would be treated as a money transmitter, which has a whole lot of extra laws.
That makes the danger too high for them, that could be something that they would be enforced upon. And so then that's why you have to go to those crypto exchanges that you were talking about that aren't the best experience. And then so that it just adds this layer of friction.
Any number of these companies can sell their service directly for credit cards. So it's just like we have carve outs for that. And then we have carve outs for exchanges being able to sell money with money, but we don't have the ability for that end point where it would be most convenient for the end user to just use a debit card to buy $5 worth and then use that constantly.
Mm-hmm. So it's just a problem in terms of where we want to be and the obstacles to getting there, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we're hoping that they're working on that right now, actually. Patrick McHenry, like Devon was saying, he's advanced 2 bills, the market structure bill and the stablecoins bill, that are potentially moving forward right now. Yeah. So, you know, things are hopefully moving in a positive direction on that front.